does this orange really exist?
Okay. Go ahead.
Me?
Yes, first.
Okay, so when I was a kid, I started wondering, is this really exist? What I mean is, if I'm dreaming, this really doesn't exist. Or if some kind of sensory is attached to my body and I'm in a coma or something, this doesn't exist. And how do I know this really exists? Was the biggest question I had when I was a kid.
And actually I had the same question, but in a different way, that especially when I put those things somewhere on the table or something, and then if I close my eyes, does it disappear? We don't know. When we are closing our eyes, it could be gone somewhere else, or it could stay, it could be there, but I can never know because my eyes are closed. So, which is the case? And then I can never prove that. And then that was the biggest question I had when I was a kid.
The answer I found was, it might not exist. That's the answer, because I know this orange exists to the extent that I'm sure. That's all. And after I gave up to the notion that this really exists, it became so easy. Okay, so that I started to only assume this exists.
You mean that your perception? That's the...
Yeah, but that's basically after that I became, everything is my perception. And whether this exists or not really doesn't matter. And if I can assume that's good enough, a meaning which might change, this might not exist, and ready to accept that, then my kind of dilemma I had, the inconsistency in the thinking, became much easier.
But then, I had a similar way of thinking. But then, one question which I couldn't answer is that if it's your assumption or if it's your perception which defines this orange exists, it must be. Actually, I tried and then I never succeeded. If I think it's apple hard enough and I close my eyes and open my eyes again, this will become an apple. I tried that, but it never happened. Why do you think? Because I'm not powerful enough?
Well, the perception is what you build based on your experience. The truth, in my term, is definition of truth is consistent with experience. And if you experience something which is not an apple, and trying to perceive it as an apple, that is not true.
So you mean this is actually a real thing which exists? Because
I can assume that this is a real thing.
Yeah, so which is the definite existence? Is it your perception or is it an actual orange which...
There's no definite existence. I can only assume.
Yeah.
And we call that assumption as... actually, I call it as truth.
Yeah, but then my question is, as I tried, if our assumption, our perception, or our will, our will is strong enough, do you think it's possible to change this into apple just looking at it?
I don't know, but I don't think so.
Why not?
Because I never experienced, which is inconsistent with my experience.
Yeah, but that's based on your experience, which is built up in your past. But
Correct.
If you have a strong enough will to change or influence your experience or your set frame of thinking, you may be able to change the rule of the physics or the existence itself. Do you think that's possible?
I don't think so because of my experience. And if I experience even just once changing this stuff from apple in my life, then I start believing that. And so truth is pretty much relative to what I experience or not.
And then that experience is defined by your assumption, or is it more defined by something, superior to yourself, or
You mean experience?
Yeah, your experience,
Experience?
and your perception, and then what you just.
Well, experience and perception is for me different thing.
Okay.
Perception is what I build up based on the experience.
Okay.
Say image, my definition,
okay.
assumptions, and the experience is what I mean censored from my life is experience.
So that experience. Then my question is: that experience, is it formed by some external power, or is it formed by yourself?
Very good. That I can assume that this exists somehow, and I can touch it, I can feel it, I can make an action based on the assumption that this chair exists, there's a food exists in my fridge, and to that extent I'm sure.
And is it defined by the external set of rules, or is it defined by you experiencing it? That was my question.
What do you mean by that?
For example, it could be yourself or myself who's experienced this world since I was born, and I got my perception or my will to think about something, and that experience is built by myself, right? Because I'm thinking about it. So the world, for example, before I started perceiving something, world may not have existed. That could be the case. So this world might be the product of my experience, which is defined by my perception or my thinking or my actually observing something.
Well,
is it the case, or
well, it might be, but I don't think so because of my experience.
Yeah, okay.